Morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to another extra special edition of Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm joined by Darren Woodhead, football historian and author today, for another one of our Burnley Legends series interviews. Today, we have a guy with another fantastic name on the show. He played over 100 games for the club at Turf Moor between 1984 and 1988. Welcome to the show, Phil Malley.
Hello, good evening, good morning, Darren, Phil.
Yeah, nice build up for you there, Phil. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Obviously,
it's been an absolute pleasure.
Brilliant. So we've got plenty to ask you about your time at Burnley. I'm sure we'll come on to that, but just starting off in your career, your football career, we know you're from the North East. Now, what I don't know is where your allegiances lie with Sunderland and Newcastle, because I see that you were born on one side of the town and played on the other. Is that right?
Yeah, I was sort of born midway, about 6 miles from Newcastle, probably about 8 miles from Sunderland, so smack back in the middle, really. I was brought up in a house with 4 brothers. They were all Newcastle fans. My dad was a Newcastle fan. Everybody in and around the area was sort of split Newcastle, Sunderland. I was probably more Sunderland myself when I was younger. That's a strange thing to say now. Now I'm a black and white. You don't usually change your allegiances. I think it's just simply because I was at Sunderland as a schoolboy and I spent the apprenticeship days there. I'd obviously seen Sunderland more live than what I had Newcastle. It was just, I don't know whether it was something when Sunderland released me, whether I turned a bit bitter and twisted, I don't know. But I just think the peer pressure of having a family who are all black and whites sort of did change me down the black and white avenue. I certainly didn't go for any glory hunting as in terms of following a team that won anything, because in my lifetime they've never won anything anyway. I think Sunderland won more in my lifetime, but anyway, so it's black and white. But as a Geordie, it's a bit strange thing to say, but obviously I've got a massive soft spot for Sunderland. Now, you won't hear many Geordies say that. Just because I was there for a while, and I love the place. I love being at Roker Park. I met some fantastic lads there. And I'd like to see Sunderland back in the Premiership, just basically because it's good for the club. It's good for North East football in general, and just get the bragging rights going again.
Oh, definitely. We know we've got a little question for you about Sunderland later on. Phil's got a little bit of a question in rapid fire. We'll come on to that. So what age were you actually at Sunderland from, Phil?
As far as I can remember, I know these days football clubs sort of get kids at 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old now. It's probably getting a bit younger now. Football's sort of such money orientated now. But I can't really remember doing much up until I was sort of 12, 13, 14-year-old, where you went on schoolboy forms. We trained over at a pitch in a sort of the gymnasium twice a week. And then sort of a couple of months before your 16th birthday, they offered me associate apprenticeship forms, which I nearly turned down. And I can go straight into the story instead of asking the question. Basically, what happened was my father and my 4 brothers all worked in the shipyards, because obviously the North East was a big shipyard area. Yeah, and I knew 1 or 2 lads who were a little bit older than me, who sort of were apprentices at other clubs, one at Sunderland, one at Newcastle, one at Leeds. And basically, after 2 years of apprenticeships, they sort of, they got released and they were having to find work, etc., etc. So because my brothers and my father was in the shipyards, I automatically wanted to go down the shipyards rather than be a footballer. So when the letter came through to sort of sum it up in the apprenticeship forms, I actually had the audacity to say, well, look, can you wait until I get a reply from Swan Hunter Shipbuilding, which my dad wasn't too impressed about. Anyway, what happened was I actually failed the interview, and luckily Sunderland sort of took me on. And I didn't actually find out why I failed the interview until my dad's 90th birthday, when he told me that he'd actually told the guy who was interviewing me not to give me the job under any circumstances, or I would have to go down the Sunderland route anyway. Wow.
That's some story. There's not many lads who want to choose the shipyards over football, is it, Phil? It's quite unique.
Yeah, maybe I was a little bit headstrong when I was younger. I was more into, I loved my football, but when I was younger, I used to go like the punk rock concerts, and I used to like my music and stuff like that. So football wasn't really top of my list until I sort of maybe signed apprenticeship forms, and obviously you get down the avenue, get on with it.
Yeah. And I noticed, I did a little bit of research today of your hometown being a place called Felling. Is that correct?
Well, actually, no. It's what it was. It's actually Hebburn, Hebburn, but it comes under a sort of when you played for the town and the county, it come under Jarrow, Hebburn, and Felon. Well, Jarrow,
right.
You may go through the Jarrow March, Donkey's Year.
Yeah.
You know, it's an area a bit like it's a bit like Burnley and Accrington combined type thing.
Yeah.
It's actually Hebburn. I know it's down on Google and Wikipedia is, but it's actually Hebburn.
But the funny thing is, when I did put Felling in after that, another name came up with Chris Waddle. And I know I've been ribbing you about your hairstyle from the 80s today, and it all fit into place once I found that.
It certainly wasn't copied off Chris Waddle, but I think in the 80s, as you well know, I think everybody.
I have one myself.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think I've nearly got one myself now. And obviously, when lockdown first started, I didn't get a haircut for 6 months, so I sort of resembled just a fatter version of I was 30 odd years ago.
Yeah, another feeling. I had the same haircut myself. I think everyone did in the 80s. Yeah. So you managed to, you had a little spell at Hartlepool, didn't you, as a teenager, and then you went to Burnley. So how did it all come about, actually, that period, Phil?
It was 3 months before my 18th birthday. Someone had actually offered me a professional contract. And what happened was Mick Doherty was my coach at the time. You'll remember Mick Doherty from the Burnley days.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, Mick had left and took the Hartlepool job. So we'd actually left being made coach at Sunderland. One or two others took over. I think Jim Montgomery, who you might remember from the 1973 Cup final, made that great save. He took over the coaching down at Sunderland, and so did Leighton James. And what happened was, the day before my 80th birthday, when I thought I was actually going to go in and sign these forms, they actually let me go. And I think Alan Derman's exact words were, he said, we've just had a change of plan, and I just couldn't get my head around it. And lo and behold, that was a day before my 80th birthday, and it was way before the days of mobile phones. And because Mick Doherty took the Hartlepool job, he offered me my first contract over at Hartlepool. And I literally signed for Hartlepool on the 18th birthday.
Wow.
So it basically, because I knew Mick, and, I say, unbeknownst to me, Mick was going to get sacked 2 months later, so that didn't go down too well.
No, well, we speak about that quite a lot with ex-players and these little twists of fate with managers coming in and out and how your career changes. It's all, on a fine knife edge, really, isn't it?
It is. Like I say, I signed for Mick, and I think 2 months, the results weren't going well for Mick. Whether something was in the background going on, you don't know as a kid. He left. And I think I spent another 2 months there. But basically, Mick had signed a few lads from Sunderland, lads who'd been released. And basically, the guy who took over basically made us train on our own. And he didn't feel part of it. So I actually went to school and see the manager. And I said, look, can we just sort of null and void this contract that I've got? Which I think I had about 4 or 5 months left on it. And they were willing to do that. And I've gone and played part-time football. I played one game for Berwick in the Scottish League. And then Burnley offered me a trial. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I didn't know where Burnley was at the time. I don't forget, I was only 18 years old. I'd never been out the North East, really, so I didn't actually know where Burnley was.
Yeah.
And it all came about because the guy who used to be a chief scout at Sunderland, who also had he was doing some scouting for Sunderland, Hartlepool, but he was also doing a bit for Burnley, and he just said, you want to go down to Burnley for a trial? And me and 2 other lads came down around about February 84, I think it was, came down for a trial.
Right, and so who was the manager when you first signed for Burnley, Phil?
Infamous John Bond.
I thought it was, yes.
Don't get me wrong, a lot of older fans probably won't have a good word to say for him. I got him okay. He offered me a contract, probably without seeing me, really. Maybe I was recommended. I've nothing against the guy. The same for me, offered me the contract. I mean, a contract, I must admit, I nearly didn't get the same. I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was 20th of March 1984, and it was deadline day. Now, I know deadline day these days is scattered all over Sky Sports and all that. You have to sign by a certain time, midnight. In them days, it was 5 o'clock tea time. We had a reserve team game against Newcastle that day, and we should have been in the Sparrowhawk Hotel, sort of, as footballers do, have an afternoon sleep, and, after you've had some pasta and stuff, and you're supposed to relax. Well, me and the 2 lads who got invited down for the trial were actually in the snooker club playing snooker in the afternoon. Not having a drink, obviously, because we had a game that night. And Burnley at the time had a lad on loan called Steve Baker from Southampton. Yeah. And he was obviously stopping in the hotel, and he come racing out the snooker club. He said, look, lad, you better get round to the club now because the managers rang up and he can't find you. And we were panicking, wondering what it was. And I think by the time we got to the club, it was about 4:30, 4:45 anyway. There wasn't really time to ask questions where we'd been. It was basically to offer us a contract. We had to sign by 5 o'clock that day. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to play for the first team for the rest of that season. Obviously, we didn't tell them we were in the snooker club because only the contract probably wouldn't have been there if we had it done.
Yes.
We just said wake us up. So I nearly didn't get to say. I mean, another 20 minutes later, I wouldn't have made my debut that season because I'd have missed the deadline.
Right. But you did actually. You pulled it off, and you made your debut. At Turf Moor around that period. How did it feel to be playing at Burnley? What was it like coming into that team? They were struggling, weren't they, at that time?
They were struggling. I mean, they struggled a bit more the season after and the season after that.
Yep.
It's a strange one because we must have, and I remember when, pretty sure it was Walsall, if I remember right, a nighttime game, and this is the bit I find a bit strange. Normally, you would find out in the afternoon if it was a nighttime game whether you were playing or not. You would train in the morning, and the gaffer would turn and say, right, number one, I think at the time was Roger Hansby was in goal. And then you just go through the team, right, get yourself home, lads, have a sleep and all that sort of stuff. And for some reason, the manager didn't pick the team. So that afternoon, same again, I wasn't one for lying about in bed and doing things that probably what you should do when you're a pro footballer. I think I'd gone downtown, remember right, I had a sunbed and stuff like that, and I got home. I was living in digs at the time. And the best thing to do before you play football is probably not to have steak and chips, because I was in digs. The landlady made me sort of steak and chips, a big heavy meal, if you know that, around about 5 o'clock. And I've gone down, I've walked back. All the professionals were in the first team room, and I think there must have been about maybe 17 or 8 of us. I mean, obviously Burnley wouldn't have had a big squad then. And John Bond just stands there. He says, right, the team today is Roger Hansby in goal, Phil Malley full back. And as soon as he said it, I could have been sick straight away. I was thinking, oh my God, I've just had steak and chips an hour and a half ago. I was thinking, surely this could have taught me to know when I was playing or not. So I had to run around sort of for 90 minutes with the stuff that you probably wouldn't and shouldn't really run around in your stomach. It is as strange as it sounds. I can't really remember much about the game. I did okay, played a few passes, didn't get booked, which was surprising.
You did like a tackle, didn't you?
Did like a tackle, too, yeah. I must not have done fantastic because I wasn't in the following week's team, but made my debut against Walsall.
All right, and you've been on sunbed, so you look good as well. Yeah,
I look good. Yeah, I look. My mother could be tapped on me blonde hair.
Yeah. So what was it like moving into digs, Phil? Coming from the North East then to Lancashire. What was that like?
Yeah, we first come down, and I think at the time most of the trialists and anybody who come down on loan used to stop at the Sparrowhawk Hotel. And I think I was there for about a month or so, and then as soon as deadline day gone and we signed, they found us digs, and I think I was on Hollingreave Road. I remember the lass's name actually, a lassie called Anne Burgess and Sam Burgess. Very nice people. And, they looked after you well, make sure your tea was there. I think the thing is with landladies, they're supposed to make sure that how can I put it, in the house on time, make sure you don't stop out having a drink, blah, blah, blah. And I did sort of pull the wool over her eyes. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. I'd stopped out one, I think it was a Thursday night. I wasn't in the first team at the time. I'd stopped out one Thursday night, and I must have crept home at whatever time it was. I think it must have been about 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. I've sneaked in, and what it was, when I got through, the Burnley Express was lying on the mat. So I picked up the Burnley Express, and sort of partially read it, and not even thinking, I put it on the settee. Well, you know what I'm going to say now, don't you? So I've got to bed, I had a couple of hours before I got training, and the guy who was my landlord come down, he says, tell you what, he says, that paper lad's getting very clever these days. He says, he breaks through the window and puts the paper on the settee for you. I thought, oh my God, I've just dropped myself in it. So,
you rumbled.
Yeah. But they were fine, they were great people, looked after me well.
Excellent.
So Darren, probably for the show that we do have one segment that we do here where we do some non-football questions, and this is just some fun stuff, no right or wrong answers. And Tony Robinson, who's one of our other co-hosts, he came up with what's called rapid fire. And it started out with some North England versus South England stuff, and it's like food, TV, music questions. And the first one is, do you prefer mushy peas or garden peas?
Mushy peas. It's a strange set of questions. I'll go for mushy peas on that.
Well, how about with your full English breakfast? Do you take that with or without black pudding?
Preferably without.
Without, okay. And then do you like red sauce or brown sauce on your Bacon Buddy sandwich?
Red sauce.
Red sauce. Okay, I don't know if you're making many friends up north right now. Maybe you could do better with the music one. Oasis or Blur?
Oasis.
Okay, you won some points up north now again. What about Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Beatles.
Beatles, okay. And then this is the one that Darren mentioned a bit earlier. If you were going to watch Netflix, would you rather watch the documentary Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, or Sunderland Till I Die?
Actually, Sunderland Till I Die. I watched it.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It's a shame they're in the position that they are in. And like I say, one day, hopefully, they'll get back up there. But I really, really enjoyed it. In fact, I'm just on the Leeds United one at the moment. I'm going through that one.
Yeah, it's really well done, I thought. And, you see things that you don't normally get to see. And I don't know how much the players there really like that, but it certainly makes for good television.
It does. It was really enjoyable. I think I watched it more or less all the way through in one night, I think it was.
Well, speaking of television, and I don't know if this is good television. Certainly some people think it is, but if you had to watch Coronation Street or EastEnders, which one would you watch?
Neither, but I'd probably go for Coronation Street being enough.
All right, and then we've got, do you prefer AstroTurf or natural grass?
Natural grass.
Natural grass. That's about 100% on that one. And then, would you like to try hot jalapeno peppers on a pizza? That's something we do here in Phoenix.
What was the first one, Phil?
Well, it's just it's a yes or no. We put hot jalapeno peppers on our pizza. Would you like to try that?
Oh yeah, that's not a problem.
Good stuff. Darren likes the spicy peppers on his pizza.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, like a bit of hot stuff, don't we, Phil?
You gotta get like a 2-to-1 jalapeno to pepperoni ratio.
Yeah.
And then Tony, who invented this rapid fire segment, he's from Canada. And he thinks Canada's signature dish of poutine would be a hit in Lancashire. Now, this dish is chips, gravy with melted cheese curds. Is this something you'd like to try?
The chips and the cheese are okay. I wouldn't fancy gravy with that as well. Like.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I had it at a hockey game once. It's a little too salty, though.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. Darren, did I get all the rapid fire?
Yeah, you did. So thanks for bearing with us on that, Phil. You'll never been asked those questions before, yeah, I know.
Well,
let's get back to football.
None of the music was my liking anyway. I just have to go.
No, me neither.
I'm more to me punk rock and stuff. So.
Oh, yeah, so go on. What's your kind of music there, Phil?
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of a band called Stiff Little Fingers, have you?
Yeah, I've heard of them, yeah.
I was more like them, Buzzcocks, Sex Pistols, Crash, stuff like that. I mean, I haven't said that. I love a bit of Rod Stewart. I mean, the wife usually won't say Rod Stewart now when he's entertaining. So, yeah, I like a bit of Rod Stewart.
Yeah, big football fan as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
Good stuff. So, moving back onto football, let's get back onto football quickly. 1984-85, so you got in the side that round about, and Phil, you got settled in. You made about 10 starts and a few sub appearances, so you started to establish yourself. But quite a few changes in management, weren't there, around about that time?
Yeah, if my memory serves me well, I'm pretty sure sort of, was it 84-85? I think John Bond had literally started the season, but then got literally sacked straight away.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but I think that's
you're right.
I don't even think he started the season off.
No.
Obviously, John Benson went straight in as manager. I got on well with Johnny, but he's a fantastic lad. I mean, they still had obviously an over-lingering ex-Manchester City squad there, like Tommy Hutch and Jerry Gow, Dennis Stewart, Billy Hamilton and all them. I think one or two had sort of moved on, but there was still a mainstay of them, I think, were there. I've played a few games. I think, if I remember right, did John get sacked at the end of that season? Did he get relegated?
Yeah, he did, yeah. And then it was... Martin Buchan came in after that, didn't he?
Yeah, it was like, when you sign, you sign for one manager on a short-term contract, and then he goes, and then another manager comes in, and then he goes, and you think, man, I've got to start again. Is this guy going to like me? Is this guy going to give me a chance? Martin Buchan came in, and I got on him literally straight away. I mean, especially him and Tommy Kavanagh coming as a pair, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because of the type of player that I was, because I remember like years ago when I was playing under like Mick Doherty, Mick Doherty's my coach. I didn't stay with my game on Mick Doherty, but he used to like the dogged spirit of getting stuck in. In fact, one of Mick's favourite phrases was that, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. And I always try to remember that one.
Yeah.
So if you come across anybody who was better than you or thought was better than you or bigger than you, just give it your best shot. Now, obviously, that must have sort of resonated with Martin and Calf. And I think if I remember right, I was banned for a couple of games that season. But other than that, I think I played every game that season. It obviously didn't work for Martin because I think he left around about 3 or 4 months, I think it was. They said, I did hear he had shingles or something, but whether there was something going on behind the scenes, whether he just thought could walk into Burnley and just tip into a fantastic save. Well, it's a very, very difficult job. Football's a difficult job anyway. Now, whether something's gone on behind the scenes,
yeah. He'd been the captain of Manchester United, hadn't he? And he probably just thought, I'll take a job locally. And I don't think he managed again after Burnley, did he?
I don't think he did. In fact, I think he was doing a dual role, because I remember when he came to Burnley, I think he was working for Puma, because we all got brand new Puma boots. We loved it.
That's a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah. And the thing was I'll tell you a story about Martin. He first came in, he took over that season. We did pre-season training. And obviously Martin was still friends with Kenny Dalglish from obviously his days at Scotland. So one of Burnley's first pre-season games in the 85-86 season, and now bear in mind Liverpool, I think they just done the double the season before. They sent a full-strength Liverpool side out, like Grobbelaar, Neil and Hansen and Mulby, Rush, Dalglish and all them came on turf. And I thought that's probably not the wisest thing to do, because you've got a team in the 4th division who are sort of looking for a little bit of, a G-up. And Kenny Dalglish fetches his double-winning team from the previous season over. I think we got spanked 4-0, if I remember right.
Did you get stuck into any of them, Phil? Were you giving a few slide tackles?
Well, to be fair, I couldn't get near them. It showed you the vast chasm between first division football, which obviously there was no Premiership then, and the level that we were playing at. They were just far superior. We couldn't get near them really. But I loved it. And Stranger said there was a program, a team sheet. Came up on eBay not so long ago. My son bought it for me, so it takes pride of place on my wall. There's not many people who have actually been on the team sheet with Grobbelaar and Neil and Dalglish and Rush and all that.
No, it's nice. Yeah, it's definitely want to tell the grandchildren that one, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So just moving on slightly to the next season, and which is the historic season really for sometimes for the wrong reasons. But I mean, some of our listeners who are in the States will know Burnley as a Premier League club, quite established now. But going back to that season, it was a season when Burnley nearly went out of the Football League, and a lot of people still bill that game as the most important in the club's history. So, I mean, how did you find the whole season? I mean, the crowds were really low, weren't they, Phil?
Yeah, it's there's things pop up every now and then where I've seen the league table beforehand, and I'm in a sort of forum which is about 80s football, and then it shows the league tables right through that season. And it never really dawned on us until about the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks, thinking, so we really are in the mud here. We're going to have to try and get out of it. Results sometimes, apart from the results were terrible. I'm pretty sure the football was terrible. Crowds, I think there was one game, I think it's Burnley's lowest ever league gate, something like 1,784, so I can't remember. It's against Colchester, I think it was, on a cold, wet Tuesday night. So the crowds weren't turning up. I just remember sort of the last 4 games against the likes of Crewe and Rochdale, and I think we played Wrexham before that, and then obviously the Orient game, and games are coming thick and fast. And for the sake of how tight it was at the end, if we hadn't got a point here or a win there or a goal here, it could have been so different. And everything just basically boiled down to the last game of the season against Orient. And really, we couldn't have really played anybody harder, because I think Orient, if I remember right, needed to win to get into the playoffs.
Yeah,
so,
that's correct.
If we'd have played somebody maybe who was mid-table or had nothing to play for, we'd probably. But having said that, I was going to say we probably felt a bit more confident. On the day, I actually felt confident. We always thought we could win the game. We knew we had a win in us. But what we weren't expecting on the day is, 18,000, which was the official attendance. We didn't really expect 18,000 people to turn up.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a momentous occasion. And thankfully, you got over the line with a couple of goals, one from Neil Grewcock, the other at Ian Britton. I think another thing to probably emphasise around that time, that was the first season when it was automatic relegation out of the league, where there'd always been clubs could apply for re-election, and clubs couldn't get out of the conference because of the ground. And this felt like dropping into oblivion, didn't it? This, if it had done.
We had, obviously, because I remember being in Hartlepool and we're being in the North East and seeing the likes of Hartlepool literally having to apply for re-election every year. They always got it. I think the league is still in it. But this was like automatic first time. And I don't know. It's you shudder to think what would have happened. A lot of people turn around and say, do you think Burnley would have survived? Well, the answer to that would be yes, because I don't think the Burnley fans would have let it go to wreck and ruin.
No.
Somebody somewhere along the line would have pumped some money in. I don't think Burnley would have folded. And at the end of the day, we've seen clubs go down there, probably not as big as Burnley, name-wise, who've just come up the following season. They've survived. You know, the crowds would have still gone on. I'd like to think that would sort of happen. I'm pretty sure that would have happened. The fans would have turned up. You look at the Burnley fans, the diehards. They've turned up.
Yeah, I'm sure they would have done. And like you said, other teams now. No, it's not. It doesn't seem as daunting. You know, teams like Luton drop out and then they come back in, and it does. But with the first year of automatic, it did feel like the end of the world. But thankfully, you got over that, and the celebrations must have been something. I mean, everyone on the pitch. It's a big part of Burnley's history that day, isn't it?
They nearly killed me, some of them, because that's a bit of an iconic picture there somewhere. When, to be fair to George Courtney, he didn't cheat in any way, shape or form. He did give us a little bit of a heads up, saying, look, there's so much time left. And I think I remember speaking to Leighton James and George Courtney. He says, look, the final whistle is going to go about 20-30. Obviously, we could see all the fans climbing over the fence. I don't even think the linesman could do his job at one point, because the crowd was literally on the pitch before the final whistle. And he sort of gave us a bit of a heads up to get off the pitch as quickly as we could. But of course, this idiot, when the final whistle went, I went down on all fours. Neil Groupcott ran over and gave me a bit of a hug. But in the space of about 10-15 seconds, and I've seen it on, because I've watched the Orient game since, and I've watched the end of it, and there must have been absolutely thousands of people just piled around me. I literally couldn't breathe down. They got to the stage where there was, if you see the picture or the video, there's thousands of people around me. There was God knows how many people on top of me. And if it wasn't for the fact that Arthur Bellamy had the hindsight to come back and pull me out, when he did pull me out, the only thing I had on was a pair of socks and a pair of shorts, because my boots had gone, my top had gone, obviously. And I couldn't breathe.
Yeah, it must have been pretty frightening, that.
We've gone in the change room afterwards, and somebody's brought the champagne out, and the rest to say is history. Yeah.
And then I think it was a pivotal moment in Burnley's history, that obviously rebuilding the next season. A few new players came in, and I think you made quite a few starts, but you didn't manage to get to the Sherpa Van final, did you?
Yeah, we did. Obviously, I think there was a little bit of upheaval. Some players left, which obviously had to be done, because theoretically, if you think about it, that was Burnley's worst ever side, and you can't really argue with that. If you look where we were in the league table. So Brian had a bit of a clear out. Fortunately, I was still part of his plans. Me and a few other lads. It didn't really help, because it was in, I think, November '87. I had a bad break. I broke my leg and dislocated my ankle at the same time, and I was out. I picked up until about April time. And the lads did well. They got through, I think, at that time, probably in about a quarter final with the Sherpa Van. I think, if I remember right, the league table, mid-table, so I think we were okay. There was never going to be another Orient, if you know what I mean. And then we drew Preston in the Northern final, which I was not too sure if that was maybe one of my first games back as a substitute. I think we drew 0-0 at Turf, and I went over there and beat Preston on the plastic pitch 3-1. Which is a turn off for a lot of people, because they just didn't think we would do it. I'm sure the Burnley fans thought we would do it, but on the plastic pitch, it was obviously all going to be in Preston's favour. And we've gone over there and beat 3-1. Next thing you know, from being the depths of despair on the pitch at Orient, and 12 months later, or less than 12 months later, we're off down to Wembley with playing Wolves, which I think was it 88,000 turn up or something else?
I think it's until recently it's the biggest attendance for that final. I think it might have just been eclipsed with Sunderland and Portsmouth, for that type of final recently. But massive occasion.
Games, I remember it well. I just remember for it obviously not being. We went down as a squad. We went down on the Friday, I think it was, stopped in a hotel. The manager picked the team on the Friday, which I didn't think was the wisest decision. That's not a criticism, but I think there was about 16 of us went down. Them days, I think there was 2 substitutes. So obviously the 3 or 4 were left out, got told on the Friday that we weren't going to be involved. the problem with that is you're stuck in a 5-star hotel where everything's paid for. So as soon as we got told we weren't playing, it was like, what are we going to do now, lads? Which bar are we going to? So we had a few days. We trained obviously on the Friday or the Saturday, and I think early Sunday morning. So if anybody had got injured, we might not have been in the best position to sort of fit in. But we weren't silly. But maybe the wisest thing would have been done to maybe pick the two. But maybe he did that for reasons that you want to know you're playing. There's no point telling somebody an hour before kick-off. Because as I told you when I made my debut, you don't get somebody stuck in my face with steak and chips just before a game.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Ash, he told us when he came on about it, heartbreaking that he didn't get onto the pitch when he was a substitute. So, it must have been frustrating for you as well, though, Phil, to get to Wembley and not quite get in. Like nowadays, with all the subs, you'd have been on the bench, wouldn't you?
God, I think these days there's about 11 on the pitch and about 5. Just really one on, one off. I did feel sorry for Ashton because the team we played, Wolves, were by far superior to the best team we played that year. I mean, the likes of Steve Bull and Andy Much, who were fantastic. Yeah. Steve Bull went on to play for England in the 3rd division. And I just thought maybe at the end, he brought Leighton James on, who actually did very, very well. I'm not saying he changed the game, but he actually came out with one of our better players. I just thought if I'd have been manager, and I know it's maybe feeling sorry for somebody as such, but it was once in a lifetime playing at Wembley then. Maybe not so much now for Premiership footballers because, it's not so long ago. Tottenham Hotspur used to play there every week, so most of the Premiership players actually played there. Years ago, it was once in a lifetime. I just thought maybe they could have maybe just slung my film for the last maybe 10 minutes or so. The game was gone. We were never going to get back into it. Anyway, that's not criticising Brian too much. I just felt a bit sorry for that.
No, I think it just passed him by apparently, didn't it? I think he just almost forgot Brian, really, yeah. And like I say, the rest is history.
I've missed most of that season. I was a bit disappointed because I was involved with obviously the Northern final, but not to be I was in the squad, not on the bench. Disappointed, but not too disappointed. I think, strange enough, the most disappointing bit was obviously after the game. We wanted the lads who weren't involved wanted a top, like a football strip. So we thought, we'll keep this as a memento. And we tried to get one afterwards. And I don't remember an old guy called George Gray who used to be the kit man.
Yeah.
And he just wouldn't let us near the kit. We tried to get one for obvious purposes to stick on your wall at home. But, George is like, look at his ways. You're not getting any of these kit lads. Where the end of, whether George had a little eBay thing set up, I don't know. But we never seen them anyway.
So just like wrapping it, I know you obviously left Burnley, at the end of that season, but there's wrapping up your Burnley career. What would you say were your best moments while you were playing in the Claret?
I mean, obviously making my debut, which I feel a bit embarrassed not knowing too much about. I mean, you should remember that, shouldn't you? That everything we did in that game, but it's probably just bypassed me. And like I mentioned earlier, the chicken and chips sticks in my head more than anything. Probably my first goal, my debut goal against Hereford, sticks in my mind. I think it was probably the 85-86 season. My first goal at Turf as well. Crew, I think it was. That sticks in my mind. I can remember like it was yesterday. I scored in the FA Cup against Hereford, which was, you can just tell some of your grandparents you've scored in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
The Orient game would probably be the high point. I mean, don't get me wrong. That season in general was probably most Burnley supporters' low point.
But I think it's a turning point, isn't it? So it's something that the team still gets talked about. You've had, like you say, you're on WhatsApp with them, aren't you, and stuff like that. And
I mean, if you think about it now, I mean, there was in them days when we played Orient, there was 11 on the pitch plus Ashley Hoskins, so there was 12 of us. And basically a third of that team are still in contact literally every day, which is, just through sending each other, messages and jokes and stuff. And every couple of weeks, and especially through lockdown, we have a WhatsApp group chat and have a couple of beers. And all we talk about is how bad we were, and we slag each other off, basically.
It's all good fun, isn't it?
How class only works. I'll have a go at Ash and say you're rubbish, and Ash will say you're rubbish, and one or two other things. But the most thing that sticks in mind, Darren, is basically, I've lived every Burnley kid's dream, and probably most adults in Burnley's dream. I've had the Burnley shirt on over 100 times, and you'll not ever take that away from me. And every time I put it on, I can honestly say I give 100%. If it wasn't good enough, then tough. To be fair, a lot of people I speak to now who are my age and above, they always speak highly. They remember you. I wish they'd buy me a pint more often, but
I think obviously we put it up on Facebook that we were going to get you on as a guest, and most overriding comments were 100% guy, gave everything every game, and that's all you can ask, really, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, you see a lot of players now who've been blessed with lots and lots of skill, and for some reason, I don't know what it is, it's like they can't be bothered, some of them these days. I'm not saying all of them do. If you just give me somebody, if I had the choice between two players who one had 10% less ability but was willing to show a bit more, I'd take that guy any day of the week. But that's just my opinion of it all.
Well, Phil, it's been great hearing all of your stories here about football and your career at Burnley. But I do understand that after you spent some time with Morecambe after that. Tell us a bit about that.
We what it was. Obviously, when I got released by Burnley, I rang one or two clubs up. It didn't really help because I had a bad injury the season before, and I did have the chance to go back up to Hartlepool and go back on a trial up there. What I had, which wasn't a problem. Obviously, I was living with a girl and I had a child who was 3-year-old. Now, you're not really in a position at that age to go on a trial for a month and not get any wages. So what happened was, a fella called, you remember this guy, Darren? You remember Eric Worley, won't you?
Oh, yeah, we know Eric from Accrington, yeah.
That's right, yeah. Well, Eric was manager of Morecambe at the time.
Yeah.
He rang me up, like I say, way before the days of mobile phones, and said, you fancy signing for Morecambe? And he actually said he'd spoke to Leighton James about me, and Leighton James' exact words were, he says, yeah, Phil's a great player, but he'll only get half a season out of him because he'll be suspended most of the time, which I thought was nice of him. And I got a job as well, and as strange as it seems, Darren, to actually, when I was working and playing for Morecambe, I was actually earning more money than what I was on my last wage at Burnley, and having a family, you've got to go down that avenue of, like, you've got to keep a roof over your head, pay the bills, etc. If I'd have been a young single lad, I'd have probably took the chance of maybe going for a trial somewhere and pursue my football career. But at the end of the day, there's no point in having any regrets or anything. I had a girlfriend and a kid to look after, and I've never had any regrets about it. It's not as if I was going to go on to play for Liverpool or the top team at the time, Manchester United or anything. So, but I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed the career. I enjoyed what I've done. And obviously, I had to work for a living, which I've never had a problem with. Getting my fingers dirty. My father always brought me up the right way in terms of getting my fingers dirty. Although I'd have felt better if they'd given me a chance in the shipyards, but I was brought up the right way. So I'm not trying to get my hands dirty.
Excellent.
Phil, it's really been an honor speaking with you here today. And Darren, did you have anything else today?
No, I'd just like to say thanks, Phil, for joining us. It's been a good chat, as always, about football, and it's been an interesting story.
Yeah. There's just a little story at the end, when a little note at the end is when I said someone let me go the day before my 18th birthday, and I could never ever found out why. I thought, well, they offered me a contract 3 months ago, so what's changed? Anyway, it must have been about 7-8 months later, and I'm actually in the Park View, Darren, won't you, the pub in Burnley?
Oh yeah, across from the ground, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm having a beer in there one night, and Leighton James comes walking in, and I obviously knew Leighton James from my Sunderland days because he was a professional footballer there when I was there, and obviously I've always known him as Taffy. And I've just gone, he'd re-signed for Burnley, as you well know. And I said, hiya, Taffy, how's it going, mate? Blah, blah, blah. Welcome back. And had a couple of beers. Anyway, after a few beers, he sort of turns around. He says, Phil, he says, by the way, because he was very opinionated, wasn't he, as you well know?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Now, whether this was a bit of courage or whether this was just Taffy being Taffy, he says, by the way, it was my fault that you left Sunderland. And I've just gone, what do you mean? And by that time, I'd gotten the first team. I certainly wasn't established, but I said, what do you mean? He says, well, what it was, when Mick Dockley sort of left, and he was doing some coaching roles with Jim Montgomery. And because he was Welsh, he was good friends with Alan Durbin, who was manager of Sunderland at the time. He says, it was actually my fault. He says, because I taught Alan Durbin that you wouldn't be a footballer as long as you had a hole in your bottom. I burst out laughing. I went, are you joking me? He said, well, what it was, he says, you were that type of player who I thought could walk straight into a lower league club and play first team football straight away. He says, but you'd have never made first division football. I thought, well, thanks very much, Taffy. Very, very honest of you. So I didn't know whether to strangle him or shake his hand, because I'd gotten the first team by then. And to be fair, I've always been friends with him ever since. Very opinionated. And I messaged him the other week when Peter Hampton passed away, and I got a message back off him. So I see him every now and then.
So he was part of your story indirectly.
Yeah, and to be fair, I got on with him at Burnley, and when I went to go and play for Bank Hall and North West Counties League, he was there as well. And I played for 3 or 4 other clubs with him, and I've always got on really, really well with him. In fact, he was arguably one of the best players I've actually played with, or had the pleasure to play with.
He certainly was.
Well, thank you again for joining us, Phil, and it's just really been enjoyable hearing you talk to us here today, and We would love to have you back here on the show in the future. And thank you so much. Have a great day. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Pleasure was all mine, lads.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Catch you later.
Cheers. Bye.
Take care.